So I think our last episode, we jinxed our putting both kids down at 7.
Yeah, and then being asleep and us like...
We're like, whoa, we're too
me
cool.
time. And it was working for a while. But then last night, this defines parenting like in a nutshell. That one day is one way and you're planning it to you have something to do and the kids act one way usually, and then you're trying to just enjoy and binge watch a show and they just won't let you live. They won't let you be great. And it's it's really frustrating, but that's parenting for you.
I feel like that happens when we have to do something or when we schedule to do something, they know.
Yeah.
Even if I don't tell Liam, or obviously
they sense it.
the
They're
baby
like,
doesn't know.
okay, they're being really efficient tonight. We had dinner on time. We all took baths. Like, what's going on? And they're like, okay, like let's jump mommy and daddy. So that's what happened last night. We're just trying to. Well, we had plans. We said let's go take advantage of our rooftop, and we bought this lavender lemon simple syrup. And might be coming to your blog posts soon. We wanted to make a margarita, lavender lemon margarita.
Yes.
Like perfect summer beverage.
Perfect.
We said, let's just take 30 minutes, go upstairs after we make it and just like go sip on it upstairs and enjoy the rooftop. And nope. Like, I think it took you forever to get Blair down. And then
he did not want to go to sleep.
Liam, like, only half an hour into being asleep, was scared. I don't know what was going on. He's at this point in time where like just like objects in the dark might look like something different. And that's not something we're used to because really no one was, warns you. Like with I guess they don't have to warn you, but little babies, they don't really get scared. Like they're just looking for mommy and daddy when they're crying out at night. Now his mind is like, oh my God, what could that be? Like, what is that shadow? And so he kept waking up a ton of times.
Yeah.
So, and then when we got him down, then we heard Blair, and he just didn't want to keep his pacifier. And he wasn't hungry, but he wanted his pacifier. His crying didn't set off the snoo, even though we have the most sensitive. I was like, what's happening?
It's on
because
the
we
highest.
have the most sensitive
the highest response rate.
Feature, yeah. Thanks. And it still wasn't picking up him crying to start moving faster. It was just a mess. It was a hot mess. I'm still tired from yesterday. And then we had a nerve. We went outside multiple times yesterday.
Yes. We took
to
long
get them
walks.
tired.
Make sure you get all the sunlight because a nice day in the sun always makes me tired.
I mean, I love summer because we can knock Liam out, like keep him out in the sun for a good amount of time. He's usually like, he'll pass out in like 2 seconds and usually stays maybe not on the bed all night. I mean, last summer we were in the state of having him sleep in his bed all night.
Yeah.
And then, we transformed his room and he got a big boy bed and
we put polka dots on the wall and
it was like something snapped and he's like, well, I'm not sleeping in this room all night. Yeah. I thought that big boy bed, I thought he would love it, was going to keep him in there the entire time. Anyways, just to tell you, like, just don't plan anything or just plan that there's going to be just disruptions and,
and be flexible.
Yeah. And be flexible. So we didn't get to have our margaritas yesterday or today, but maybe we'll just do a random ass Tuesday or Wednesday in the middle of the week and just take a break,
Yeah. Or we should just stop recording now because
maybe you should make us one right now. I'm sitting here with no margarita in my hand. Make it right now. Anywho. I'm Fatima.
And I'm Brian. You're listening to Millennial and Pregnant.
In our last episode of this season, we're going to reflect on our time as a family of 4.
If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need in one place. In fact, this season of Millennial and Pregnant was produced and hosted on Anchor. Here's what I love about it. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. This made it easier for me to edit my episodes on the go. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Our last episode is here. I never thought we would get here so quickly.
I know. It's kind of sad. But we can always think of something else to talk about.
Yeah, I know. I know. Revive our other series while you were napping.
Yeah, I mean, I forget at what point we did that when Liam was younger.
When he had like 2-hour naps.
Yeah, because right now, like in the guaranteed 2-hour nap, right now, I think Blair is still in the phase of, I'm going to just throw you for a loop and I'm going to sleep for 40 minutes or I'm going to sleep for 3 hours. Like, remember when he had a 3-hour nap?
Yep.
So he's still going through so many growth spurts, which means you sometimes get you get more sleep or you get less sleep during these times. It just all depends.
That's true.
They're so unpredictable at this age.
Yeah. I thought he was in a spot where we had a schedule, and then whatever reason last week was just some kind of wrench happened.
Yeah.
At least during the day.
Yeah. I would say because he's still like on it with like sleeping at night, but even still, I can't quite get him to wake up at the same times during the night. It's like within a couple hour like range.
Yeah.
But that makes such a difference because if he gets up at 4 versus 5, if he gets up at 4, I can put him back to sleep and he'll wake up again at like 6:30. If he wakes up at 5 and he sees that sun coming up, it's like, we're done.
Yeah.
And I just dread it. I almost try to, unless he's like really, really crying, I try to like see if the snoo can rock him back to sleep. Because if I'm in my head, I'm like, once I get you out, you're not going back to sleep.
Yeah. Especially when it's on the highest level, when it's only on for like a minute.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
yeah. And starts laughing and giggling. And it's like, okay.
It's a roller coaster ride. On the snoo.
Seriously. It's an amusement park. And then if, our son Liam sneaks into the bed, then that wakes him up. And it's like, great. Like, we're all up.
It's Blair. Blair gets up.
5:30 in the morning.
Yep.
And the entire house is up.
Yep.
So fun times.
But it's almost, I was going to say 4.5 months, but it's almost at 5 months.
Yeah.
With this kid.
Almost at 5 months. I've been back to work for the last 3 weeks. It's been more than 3 weeks, or is this past?
I don't know.
I think I'm going into my 4th week. I'm not even sure anymore.
But
so
we should revive how are you feeling?
Oh, how I'm feeling. I'm tired. Yesterday, I don't know. I'm just tired. There's no other. I'm just trying to get used to just remaining in this state. But it was a different type of tired yesterday and today. And I'm trying to figure out why that's the case. I don't think the weather. I think my mom always says, like, look to the weather too. And I think it's been extra hot. So I need to remember that I'm still breastfeeding. And so it's going to take a lot of energy out of me. And then the hot weather, being hot outside, I can't even talk. With it being hot outside, I need to drink extra water.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I should be drinking like 2 gallons of water every day at this point, because my body, I think, is feeling it as I look at my really full water bottle that I need to take a sip of. But I think that's probably why I've been feeling this way. And then we've also been trying to really get our toddler super tired and taking advantage of the nice weather this weekend. So we were outside, guys, like outside. Not really. We just like walked around in our neighborhood, but that's fine. We went to the park several times. We walked down to the water. We were like, I was running across the field with Liam today. I get up on those playgrounds too. I'm up, riding on the scooter with him. So once again, I think one time my sister came to visit us, and I think we had both the babies with us, and we're like running. No. I was pregnant still, and I was trying to get Liam to be tired, and I'm like running up the hill with him and running down, and she goes, aren't you trying to make him tired and not you tired? I was like, sometimes it happens to both. Like, it's just a success if I can still remain awake, but usually if I'm making him tired, I'm gonna be tired too. So he gets more of his energy out if one of us is like playing with him.
Yeah.
So yes, in conclusion, I'm tired. I will always be tired, but I'm at a level 10 when I usually am at a level 5, and I need to probably drink more fluids.
Yeah. Don't let this recording stop.
Yeah, I know.
Drink your water.
So.
And right before I was starting to set up, it was 5 minutes after his bedtime, and he was passed out.
Oh, so it worked.
Yeah.
Well, it totally
worked. We'll see
worked.
how long he'll be down for.
If he sleeps in his bed until at least 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, then I know we did our job.
Yeah.
If he wakes up before or by midnight, then he really wasn't that tired. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
That's a good thermometer degree of how, whatever time he goes down. I can't even think straight. But
I'm tired too.
I am tired. I'm exhausted. And like you said, now that you're back at work, it's hard being a single parent during the day.
Oh, okay. This looks like yeah, he's funny. But on a serious note, the whole picture of like me returning back to work and just everything looks so different from when I returned to work with Liam. In like good, I think in mostly good ways, because now that I am working this more flexible work arrangement where I go into work for 2 days and then I'm home for the other 3, has really like, I don't feel like I'm away from home as much. It's nice. It's less stressful for me to be able to do that. But then also on the flip side, when I do go into work, I have to do this commute where I'm getting, onto the Metro North. But I was talking to someone at work, side note, and they live in like Brooklyn, and it takes them an hour to get to work. And me, it's actually great door to door. It's an hour. So, I think door to door with some parts of the city that we lived in, because we usually like to be away from as many people as possible because we're very social people.
But somehow the neighborhoods we've moved to became trendy neighborhoods.
Because we're trendsetters. I tell you this. And I'm not even kidding. Every place that we've moved where there's barely anybody, very affordable, a year or so later, you see this swarm of people. Even months later, you see all of these people come into the neighborhood. The neighborhood's changing. Like our old neighborhood, there's higher buildings up. There's more Starbucks you can find. There's a Subway at the corner of the block that we used to live. Like, it's insane how much the neighborhood has transformed. Then we were in that transitional period when we were up in East Harlem, and I don't even know at what state that's in. But
felt like that was starting to be trendy, and then we left, and then I don't think it's trendy anymore. Yeah,
like a bunch of different restaurants that we used to love and go to opened up, and then they closed down. There was one really good one, Harlem Bottle and Co. That was really cute, that opened up. I think they're still open. So there is some stuff that still kind of succeeded. But like, even when we're in the grocery store and it's like no one's there. And then as soon as we're like going online, the store is like filled up. So we're just like, we're right there. We're right before everything kind of starts to happen. Or I jump online. What was I just doing? I jumped online. I was like, thank God I just jumped on this line. And a swarm of people came behind us. We were at the zoo. We were at the zoo. We went to go get ice cream. There was nobody. Remember, we just walked right up to the line. And then all of a sudden there was like 5 different families behind us that started to wait for stuff, and I was like, what's happened? But this happens to us every single time. Maybe it's because we realized first that there's no one outside, or there's no one online, and then everyone kind of joins. But I say that all because why was I saying that? This was just a difference.
Door to door.
Yeah, this is a change in our neighborhood. So the difference. I'm losing track and I'm going on tangents, but. So even though it's taking me an hour to get to work door to door, some people, it's the same thing. But even when I was in the city, it would sometimes take us 40 minutes. Yeah. And if the subways were delayed, it would take us an hour. So I don't really feel like it's the only thing is planning to get on the train because subways just come constantly, and here I'm like, I gotta get on this train, and you know, at like 4:30
because it's a 40-minute ride or a 47-minute ride or a 57-minute ride.
Seriously. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to get on the 40-minute ride. And, you know, I have a really great, you know, great relationship with my boss / you know, we're friends, and just my support system at work, I think is really great because no one really gets on me for having to catch the 4:30 train in order to get, I'm like, I still get home at 5:15. And then I just want to know, like, a second shift starts at that time where once I walk in the door at 5:15, I'm on the go the entire time, feeding, putting all my pump stuff away, cleaning it, maybe making dinner or whatever, or warming up dinner, giving you some type of a little bit of a break from whatever kind of day that you had with them. But I think it's so far, at least in the last 3 weeks, I think it's worked. I think there's obviously some things that maybe we'll have to plan even better when you get back to work, like dinner. We'll have to like really
meal prep.
Yes, we'll have to meal prep, or, you know, where
everything is chopped on Sundays.
I don't know if we can do that, but at least the night before, like while we're, you know, maybe not, I can only binge watch one episode instead of, or that's not binge watching, that's one episode. I can only watch one episode instead of two because I need to take that 30 minutes to chop up and get anything ready that I need for dinner tomorrow. Or go to bed a little bit later. We'll see what happens. Once the
crock pot.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting hot, so we'll have to crockpot. I'm not about the crockpot life when it's, you know, 90-degree weather outside. So we'll just need to think of, you know, some easy recipes, prepping ahead of time. I still kind of sign off at work around the same time that I would leave to commute, because if I'm here, I need to start making dinner and stuff like that. So we'll figure out how that might look. But what else is different from, you know, Liam versus Blair in this like stage of our lives right now?
Like what, you know, in terms of physical recovery?
I feel like I am, besides me complaining just now that I'm so tired, but I feel like that was the same with Liam as well.
But this tired is different because you're splitting your time with.
Yes.
We're splitting our time with 2 kids. That's
very true. So if I gave myself a little bit of a break, or I'm like, okay, Brian, take the baby or whatever, and then this big-eyed toddler looking at you, be like, you want to play with trains? You want to put a puzzle together? You want to do a crossword puzzle? Do you want to... Can I help you make dinner? It's just like, I was at the grocery store, and I went to go to the grocery store to get stuff for lunch. And so I did. So you know that I'm like starving. So I've said it to Brian. I'm like, I'm hungry. So, you know, I said, Liam, do you want to come with me? At first he's like, no, I want to play. And I'm like, well, I'm leaving. And so I phrase it that way. And it's like all of a sudden like, oh yeah, I want to come with you. So I'm just like, okay. I knew that my patience was going to be running thin because I'm hungry. And I told you guys I'm very tired. So, you know, if you're playing a drinking game and you take a shot for every time I say you're tired, you might be at like 20 shots right now. So I'll try and say that I'm not tired anymore. So I'm out there, and, you know, I was doing really good. I took a couple deep breaths when we were in the store. He wasn't being, and, you know, I look back at him, it's like, he was being a normal toddler. He was being actually great in the stroller, like not in the shopping cart, not going crazy or trying to pick things off the shelves, not like some other kids that I see, which I get sometimes. I feel bad sometimes when I see that. I'm like, do you need help? Because I can only imagine sometimes, even when Liam's like kind of calm but making his train sounds, I want to be like, I want to scream when I'm in the store. So if that's happening, I can only imagine what the parent is feeling. So like, he was being great, or doing the simple things that a toddler does. But then by the time I'm just so hungry, people are cutting me off in the store. I think it was everyone else. And then on top of that, I have my low blood sugar, that like by the time we got out to the car, I don't even know what he did, but I was like, Liam, mommy cannot take you outside. if you're gonna, I forget what exactly I said to him, but I lost my patience a little bit, and then I took a deep breath, and I was like, what is he really doing? And I reflected on that. I'm like, I'm tired and I'm hungry, and him making a train sound or being a little bit fidgety is not his fault. That's what they're expected to do. But I say all that because I also realized while I was in the grocery store, I said, wow, I don't think this entire weekend, I think the same is true for you, I had a moment to myself. No. Because we kind of we did the splitting, like,
the kids.
Either you had Blair or I had Blair, or you had Liam. And then sometimes we find a time where I'm like, go work out, and I'll take both of them, or I go and I'm like, okay, I need to go do my hair because ladies, on Sunday sometimes takes an entire good 3 hours for me to get my hair done for the rest of the week. So like I didn't even do that this weekend, so I was like, I haven't been by myself this entire time. And with our new strategy with putting Liam down, and Blair goes down so easily, except for last night. It was even just, I didn't even, usually I have a second of where I'm just scrolling on the couch while you're putting Liam down. And I didn't even have that. I was like, I had no Fatima time. So I need to find it during this week to have some type of sanity. Because not that, and like you guys bring me so much joy, but sometimes you really do need at least half an hour to an hour where it's just like, it's just me, and I don't have to talk to anyone, and I don't have to care or have a conversation. I just can just be, and we're good like that. We're good like that for the most part. We're sitting on the couch, but even still, just like being alone in your room, it's just like it's a whole nother feeling. So those single people, or just people who are able to do that, even with kids, like don't take that for granted, because that's such an important time to reflect on. Just to be with yourself is so important. And we didn't really have that this weekend, but we had a lot of family time, so that was good. But we'll definitely try to find some time this week to
definitely. I did have me time on the bike yesterday when you went to the store.
Oh, because Blair was on
I
his
put
nap.
Blair down for a nap, and he was napping for, I think that was an hour, and you were an hour and a half.
Wow, so
I did get my me time of bike and shower.
Wow.
What time was that at? Oh, that was in the morning.
I didn't even shower last night.
Was that the morning?
Or yesterday?
You went in the morning, I think.
Yes, we went after the park. It was around noon, or like 11 o'clock. Yeah, 11 a.m.
Yeah, that was the second.
So I remember we walked in and it was 11:11.
Yeah.
And Liam goes, it's 11:11. I was like, oh, wow. And then I quickly fed Blair. Yeah. And then we went and we had a little mini trip to Marshall's.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, so that was at noon. Okay, yeah, that was the
usually
second nap.
The Marshall trip would have been a me time. I was like, let me take Liam because he's really great outside. He's a great shopping buddy. If you have you need a shopping cart though. He'll hold your, like, he's not gonna, one time we ran through the store, but for the most part he'll hold your hand and go through the store, but he gets tired and he's a little prince, and so he wants to be he wants to be carted around. He's like, I'll shop with you, but I'm not walking around with you. So that's true. So I did that. He was fine, but it's just different once again when you're wandering aimlessly in Marshall's and Home Goods is great. And you're buying things that you did not need. Because I definitely brought some stuff that I did not need yesterday, but that's fine.
And is there anything kind of physical recovery with Liam? And now physical recovery can take up to a year, maybe longer for after childbirth. So is there anything that was kind of different, or did you just kind of feel like recovery is about the same?
Recovery with Blair this time around was definitely harder. I don't know if we spoke about it before, but like a little bit. The blood pressure in the very beginning was really scary time. I think I'm over the hump, even though that can very much still be something that comes back, or I'll feel my body or my blood pressure going up. But I've realized, and even talking to my doctor, instead of popping the pills that I have, instead just doing things to make sure I can get it down. So it's kind of forced me to eat a little bit better, especially during that, because when you're breastfeeding, you're just constantly hungry and you need snacks. You're going to probably grab for the snacks that are not the greatest, but now I'll snack.
I And then we talked a lot about your pregnancy snacking. So we all know the backstory.
Like, ooh, that was the next level. But so now when I'm hungry, the last couple nights I got yogurt, or I was eating some fruits. I had some dark chocolate. I have been really into caramel popcorn, which I haven't been into that since I was one of my best friends.
Is it?
Well, yeah, Eileen.
Yep.
She sent me for Mother's Day like this sweet treat. You can pick anything, candy, popcorn, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I really was leaning towards candy, but I was like, ooh, this popcorn looks different and good. And so I got these 3 flavors, 2 savory, and then a caramel popcorn one, because I was like, you can't go wrong. Who doesn't like caramel popcorn? And I'm sure there's people who don't, but anyways, I love it. The jalapeno one so good. I love a spicy popcorn or chip or whatever. So I rediscovered my love for caramel popcorn because one of my best friends Eileen had sent it to me, or I picked that as one of my gifts. So I'll snack on that sometimes. Yeah. So
because you came home with a bag of caramel popcorn in your purse.
Yes. I did come home.
Oh, I thought you were getting to that point.
Liam and I were both hungry because the time we left was 11 o'clock, and then by the time we were making it back home, it was close to like 1, and that was our prime lunchtime. So I'm outside with Liam hungry. Why do I do this to myself? We didn't pack any snacks. I just had one piece of chocolate, dark chocolate, which Liam was like, you have any snacks? So I ended up giving him that. So I had nothing. So I went to the checkout line at Marshall's, and there's always like those sweet candies and or chips and stuff. And what I saw was the popcorn. So we got the popcorn, and him and I were like munching on it in the car because we were so hungry. So yes, you didn't have to put all my business out there, but we did get caramel popcorn yesterday, and I had it shoved in my purse when I got back. I should have some. I'm going to eat that. I was like, what do I have for a snack? And I have that. So I'm going to go in the cabinet after this and have it. But yeah, physically, after, in the recovery process was harder. I think, I don't know, like I'm just getting a little older, I guess. I indulged a lot during this time around. And so I think my body was just like, okay, it was just like in some type of shock once I actually gave birth. And all the other things I would say, even though it's a big thing, the blood pressure issue, but other than that, it was very similar. Just being tired. I think I guess I don't even put this in like with the recovery, because the whole bounce back thing, I did feel like with Liam, by this time around, I was back where I was before, which I'm very close this time around, but I still very much still need, what do we say? Your uterus expands more than 500 times. So you just have a little bit of a pouch there. I wear a lot of high-waisted jeans, so people don't really notice. And like, oh, you look great. And I'm like, yes, I do look great, even if my gut is kind of falling out a little bit. And it's not much of anything, but thank you. This is just, a difference between, bouncing back, I quote unquote, you guys can't see me, but I'm doing quotes around bounce back. I was gonna say, I'm like, the whole bounce back.
Narrate
the whole bounce back culture or whatever, or pressure that there is. It definitely.
What does Robin call it? Bounce forward.
You want to be better than where you were before, right? But right before I got pregnant this time around, I was working out at least 2 times a week, which was like really good for me, like going on the bike and all other stuff. Like I felt really, really good. So I want to at least go back to that. I want to go back to that feeling, having that energy and just feeling more in shape, more than, okay, this is physically how you're looking. But there's some things that I really love, and I'm like, I don't want to go away. Like my sister, she's like, oh, you got a little bit of filling out my jeans a little bit more. I'm like, I will keep that. So let's figure out ways and exercises I can do to keep that and just like, just focus on like, but just in general, even if you don't have a gut or whatever, when you give birth and stuff and what's happening to your muscles, just building your core strength. And I really haven't done anything. I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything to actually get there. Yeah. So that's something that I'll have to like work on. I just physically want to feel like I'm more in shape and not necessarily go back to the exact same figure that I was before I had him. Even though, guys, I'm very close, and so that's whatever, a blessing or what, that's great. But now I just want to physically feel that way as well.
Yeah, maybe we should, and when we talk about our schedules, get you those 2 days back on the bike.
I'm like an after work person. And so once Blair is out of our room in like a month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because he's going to transition out of the bassinet and snoo into his crib.
We should give him his 30-day notice.
Yeah, right. Really real soon. So I feel like once that happens and we put them down, that was my time. I would go back into the room and I would work out. I'm the
pre-work.
Yeah,
workout.
Something that
I'm the pre-shower like morning routine workout, and you're the post.
Because what I need to jumpstart my morning is jump in the shower. Like that's like what wakes me up. That's what calms me, cleanses me, and then I start my day. Like I don't even usually come out here to have breakfast and stuff until I've gone into the shower and stuff. So like that's kind of my thing. Whereas you come out here and you have your coffee and you work out and then you eat. I'm like, no. That's not how I work right now. So we'll see. So other than that, I think the physical recovery has been very similar between the two, I would say.
Good. Okay. So I know we talked a little bit about sleeping, but let's talk about sleeping a little bit more. And for the kids, and we know that every baby is different. 1, 2, no one should ever define or let sleep define how your baby is doing to a degree. Now, if they're not sleeping, that's, talk to a pediatrician.
And because you're not sleeping, because if they're not sleeping, you're not sleeping.
Exactly. But if they're sleeping the appropriate amount of time per day, we know that breastfed babies will have shorter stints of sleep than maybe a formula baby, or maybe some babies are just different, whatever. But we shouldn't let sleep define how well your child is doing to a degree. Again, if they're not sleeping, that's just a problem.
Anything that messes up with their development. But yeah, more of like the comparing of, oh my god, my child slept for 12 hours straight, versus my child slept 12 hours but they woke up twice for 15 minutes to eat, and that's okay. That doesn't make that baby any worse or better than the next. So, and sometimes we just get into that compare game, which can be really, that hurts you more than it hurts anything else, and hurts your experience, because you're constantly just being like, okay, is my baby measuring up to what this baby that I'm seeing on Instagram doing, or what my friends are telling me they're doing? There's very rarely, if you're you have a child this age, you're tired.
Exactly. But now we've been, as we alluded to, we have our 4-year-old coming back in our room, and I don't know if there's a 4-year-old regression. I don't know what's happening.
We looked it up. It's a thing.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Because they start getting scared now.
Yes, that's right. We did talk about that. But yeah, so now he's coming into our room. We're not even hearing him anymore. We used to hear him. Now I just wake up and he's there. He's there, no longer standing over us, thank God. So he just climbs in.
He just climbs in, but we must know, we must part from each other and know he's going to come into the bed, or he knows to kind of figure it out, because sometimes people are not fully awake, but they'll move over.
I guess.
And so he's just in the middle. Yep. And sometimes he's like way on your pillow, like he's on top of you and you're like on the edge.
I wake up and I'm like, I woke up, what's today? Sunday, Friday, or I guess Saturday morning, or whatever, overnight. And my foot was on the ground of our floor. Yeah. But I was still in the bed, but I was on the edge. I was like, what's happening? Because I have someone next to me on my shoulder taking up my whole pillow.
Because he's a pillow hog.
He is a pillow
He
hog.
wants the pillow. And I almost want to be like, when you come into the room, bring your pillow. No, seriously. I want to be like, go get your pillow.
Sleepover.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe we need to just get a third pillow in there.
Him.
Yes, but he does have 2 pillows on his bed. So maybe I just like prematurely
Bring that little
just
one, the little silk one.
No, he wants a big pillow.
I know.
Because half of his body, he sleeps with the pillow on top of the pillow.
I know.
Very weird. Or he'll sleep like horizontal on the pillow. He likes that. I don't know why. So yeah, that's been an adjustment. My whole thing, okay, your kids are not going to be here forever or need you forever, should I say. So let them, it's fine. I'm like, just come into the bed. Yeah. But I gotta at least still be sleeping. Don't wake me up or the baby up when you get there. And then in the morning, it's just what I like. You gotta wake up right. Because this morning I sent him back to his bed. I said, you need to get up and you need to go back to your bed, because I just can't wake up with like
chaos,
because exactly, with chaos. Because when he wakes up in his bed in the morning, he goes, Daddy, where are you? Like, remember that? Like when our little baby used to do that. And so he always woke up really calm. So we never woke up with craziness. And so when he wakes up in our bed, it's like, I'm ready to go. Yep. Train sounds, people. Train sounds. And he just wanted to talk. And no, we can't do this right now. Because then I have, Blair over here. He's like on a roller coaster laughing and screaming. And, then he's like, oh no, I'm actually hungry, Mommy. And I'm like, what is happening? So I'm trying to feed him, and I have a train sound in one ear and
kicking you in the back. So
I was like, you need to get up and go to your room. And maybe that's our new thing. I'll wake up in the morning and I say, okay, it's time to go back into your bed. If I see that he's up, and just send him into his room, and then he start his day coming out of his bed. Even though he didn't sleep in there all night, he starts his day coming out of his bed, because I feel like it's just a much better experience for all of us if he does that.
Because once he went back to his room, and then I got up with him, and I'm like, I took Blair and I said, do you want to come in the living room with us? He's like, no, I want to sleep in my bed until 6:40. It's like, okay.
So he slept in there for 6:40?
No, he was like, okay, I'm done. After like 15 minutes, I'm sitting out here in the living room, and he's like, I'm done, Daddy, I'm done. I was like, then come out here, Liam. Yeah. No, I want to still sleep. I'm like, do you want to come out here or not? So I go in there and I turn the hatch to the yellow, which is his program to get up at 6:40.
His program.
And he's like, and he just looked at me. I was like, come on, like go use the potty, and then come back, wash your hands and come back out in the living room. So I walked out of his room, and I come back because I was so tired this morning. So I just came out here and just sitting with Blair, and then I hear across the floor, and I'm like, what is that kid doing? He dragged the chair in the room over to the hatch to switch it back to the white noise, because he wanted to go back to sleep. I was like, so go back to sleep, Liam. 10 minutes later, I'm all done. I was like, get out here games right now. You get out here right now.
Now I'm just thinking, even if he wakes up super early, because Blair we can't control, and he's gonna have his early wake times, is that even if you're up, and that's where I got the whole hatch thing was from actually a partner I worked with when I was at my old firm, and she had said she programmed her kids, but it was right. She's like, they know this time, even if they're awake or they hear us, like they don't come out their room until this time every day. And so maybe that's just like, maybe we discovered something this morning. Just put him back into his room. You don't have to do anything, and you can make all the train sounds while you're laying in bed, but you don't get out of your bed until this time. And I don't know why people are probably gonna think we're so weird with the 6:40.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how we got to the 6:40. I can't quite remember, but we just need to change it.
That was the average wake up time.
And so you put it
was like 6:30. I think 6:30 was his average wake up time. I'm like, let's like push it. I was like, let's try to do like 10 more minutes. Because I'm like, 6:30 now. I mean, now we're waking up at 5:30, but I think he was always waking up around 6:30. So I'm like, let's do 6:40. And then, that's when it changes from white noise to yellow, which means good morning, wake up. But I guess what I was trying to get with that today is he was calm after he changed the hatchback and didn't want to get up, but then get up, and then ultimately got up. He was calm and fine. And so that's him getting out of bed, being calm, doing his routine in the morning. So to your point of send him back to his bed.
So that we can do that.
He was calm after that.
The last 4.5 months have been tiring and change for us, but it has very much been such a change for him. And so if we can keep, even if you're going to end up coming into our bed or whatever you're doing to, sneak in there and then we don't hear you, that at least we send you back, even if you're because he gets woken up by Blair. That's the reason why he's waking up, because he will sleep until at least 6 or 6:30. So 5:30 is early for him.
Or 7, like the other day when I left with Blair. I snuck out of that room with the baby. Yep. And you and I were sleeping. And at least 7 o'clock. And then that's when the grocery store across the street opens, and I needed half and half. So I was quietly leaving with Blair to go get half and half. And this little person comes down the hallway at 7 o'clock. Daddy, where are you going? I was like, go back to mommy. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah. And then he came back and I was like, where's Daddy? So we're like sending him back and forth. And then I get a notification every time you unlock the door at our apartment. So I was like, oh, he like went to the store. So I texted you. I was like, where are you? He's like, North Shore. It's like, great. And because I was exhausted, I'm trying to get him to watch something on the iPad, but you were watching Netflix or something, and then we had another account open, and I'm like, great, I can't even put this on for him. Anyway, we digress. So we finally kind of figured out something to work. I felt like he got out of bed and he was much quicker. So we say all this to say that it's been such an adjustment for not only just us, but for Liam having this new person a part of our family. And trying to figure out like what that means, and getting back some type of he's getting back his schedule, like what he very much needs. Yeah.
And talking about the kids, like in terms of getting along, I feel like Blair, our 4-month-old, is so entertained by Liam.
He likes Liam more than he likes us.
He does, because we'll be talking to him or you'll be talking to him, but Liam's doing something and his head turns so fast to go look at what Liam's doing, and is laughing at Liam. He's like very entertained by him, and Liam loves to talk to Blair.
Yeah, loves it. And
so far,
the first thing he does when he gets up in the morning, he didn't say he was going to go into the living room to find Daddy. He said he was going to go find Blair. Oh, wow. So when he left the room looking, and you guys were going to the grocery store, he was looking for Blair. So that's the first thing he wants to do in the morning is find him.
Yeah. When I pick up Liam from school, sometimes his first question is, where's Blair? Yeah. Where's Blair? He's at home.
It's like, Mr. Blair, who's a crinky pants? He's like so cute. He'll say all the things that we say. He's like, is Blair being crinky pants? Is he tired? Or does he want a diaper change?
Yeah. And what color is his poop?
Yeah. He's like so concerned with the color of his poop. I think we talk about poop a lot.
We must talk about poop a lot. But Liam is being the best, sweetest big brother right now. And so it's really nice. So far it's going well. Yeah. With the two of them.
I mean, my mom reminds me, she's like, it could be, she's like, some kids like just don't like it when you bring a new kid into the mix. And I want to ask her, which kid was that of us? She says like we were all angels. I'm sure we were. I'm sure there was something, right? But she's like, he does really, really well with him. Just an FYI. Sometimes you need that perspective from just people that are around you and part of your village to like kind of remind you, or like, it's always good when you get good reassurances like that. You don't want to hear, your child's like,
That's true.
But it was nice to hear that, because it's like, okay, he actually likes him. This is a good thing.
So that's going well. And then, state of the state, just going, I know we briefly touched on schedules, but you're back to work. That's going, as you alluded to, and we're going to have to, once I go back to work. And has been such a very different situation this time around because you went back to work after 16 weeks, like I did the first time, and then you had 6 months off the first time, and now we're flipped.
Yeah.
Whereas you have 16 weeks, and now I have 6 months.
So I think that's probably also that played into my tiredness. Good thing with me going back to work this time around, it was the first time also, is that I'm not entering like the busy time. So I have a little bit of, just low hanging fruit that I'm getting done. When you go back to work, I'm actually going to be jumping into one of the busier times of the year for me.
Yeah.
Now with you back to work, and it's just going to be just
chaos.
Like chaos. So pray for us in the beginning of July, because it will be very, very rough for us. But I forgot what I was going to say.
I don't know where you were headed with that. But I was going to talk about parental leave a little bit. And what do you think you're trying to say?
I'm not sure. I'll go back to that thought. But I just but I was just kind of thinking, okay, how did the difference in time? I felt like, although I went back early, I kind of felt like I was like ready a little bit, because guys, like, parental leave is not a vacation. And also when you're, once again, talking a lot about poop, apparently, because Liam's very, or color of poop or anything else, then you start to kind of, you get a new self, right? You're now a parent of two, or you just became a parent, and you're this different person. But then you also kind of lose some of who you are when you're in parental leave, because it's all about keeping this
and a
child
layer of
alive.
Pandemic.
Yes, and then the pandemic, and so I was like, I need to have another conversation that's not about poop or
Trains.
a schedule or hatch time or whatever else. I just needed to have just conversation, even if it was about balance sheets. Just anything else other than that. And so I think that was kind of why I was like, quote unquote, ready. But 16 weeks, although very great, it's really, whoever came up with the 16 weeks, because it's pretty standard across the board, at least in the U.S. If you are fortunate
12
enough,
was the 12. What corporate standard was 12.
Yeah, and then
now it's like 16 weeks.
Yep. I don't know who came up with that, because that is if you send someone back to work during that time, you don't know that that's a major time for development for your child. So sleep regressions happen.
The milestones weren't taken into account.
Yeah. So you have so also when that happens is appointment times that start coming up, sleep regressions. It just doesn't line up with and just also what are the milestones, like rolling over, like that's all when that starts to happen.
Not the fun stuff, but all the kids, the movement stuff.
Yeah, they start to grab at things. So it's a big pivotal developmental time during this period, and they're like, go back to work. Whoa, what? Like, your child is actually like, it's no longer just like this newborn, even though our newborns have been very alert, which is really freaky, but there's no more of that like sleepiness. Like, they're awake now, and they're doing a lot of things now, and then they're also not sleeping the greatest, because they have this major sleep regression, because their whole sleep pattern is now changing. There's no longer light sleep and deep sleep. It's like a normal, mature, different cycles that you're going in and out of sleep. So that's really rough for a baby. And now they're telling you to go back to work. So it's just like, whoever came up with that, I just need people to understand, like, maybe give them 18 weeks, maybe give them 5 months. So like, that was what was great when I had the almost 6 months my first time around, is because I was able to recover from that sleep regression. I was able to be there during, like, the rolling over milestone. I mean, we were there, but we had him on the mat, turning around, and he's like rolled over the other way, and we're like, what happened? Like, no one saw your first roll. We just noticed you were rolled over the other way. Like, we just turned our head for 2 seconds. But it's just like I wish that like it wasn't lined up with such a pivotal time in their lives. The only saving grace in going back to work early is that I'm home for more than half the week, and so I'm only away for 2 days, but so much can happen in those 2 days. I'm just like, don't allow him to roll over. Don't allow him to take his first steps in those 2 days. Just kind of wait for me just a little bit. Like altogether, I'm away from him not even a full 8 hours each of those days. So not even 16 hours I'm away from him each week, but so much can happen in those 16 hours. It's insane.
And how do you think you going back to work first this time versus second last time, do you think it's helpful this way? Again, it's helpful that you have a flexible work arrangement, but
yeah.
Whereas like you're not going back to work and we're fully jumping into like our 2 work schedules, and this way you can kind of focus on easing back into work before we have to focus on.
Yeah, because when I was going back to work, it was like, okay, we have to do this balancing act, and you're already at work, and now I'm just like, well, you're still on leave, so bye. All I have to worry about is pumping, and that's it. So I guess in that sense, it's made it better for me in this process, I would say. So yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah. For right now. So you're going to experience what I felt, right? Because I'm going to have this demand for work, and now you're going back to work, jumping into everything, which, you've been keeping more up to date than I had when I was on leave. And so what you're jumping into. So that'll be, you'll see kind of what I felt that first time. But even still, I think because I would hope we figured out our communication and figured out what works and what doesn't work. We have our nights where I'm just like, why didn't you get out here at a certain time to make dinner? And then now our whole schedule is behind. But for the most part, I think that we're good with figuring out what we need. So, and just being home, I think it's going to be, you'll see it's a lot less stressful.
And, I just think parental leave needs to be given to everyone. Yeah. Like, no matter where you work, we're fortunate enough to work for big corporations who offer parental leave, and our last jobs were the same. But there are people who don't get this parental leave. They're expected to go, if they're the childbearing person, they're the ones who have to give birth and then go back to work immediately.
That just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. I look back, and if I had to go to work after, like the day after I gave birth, or a few days after I gave birth, oh hell no. First of all, I couldn't even fit my feet into any shoes. Like, I would have lost my job. I would have very much lost my job, because I would not have been able to physically get to work, or I would have, been on some type of leave where I'm getting partial pay, and that causing more issues, because frankly, because you get paid half of what you got paid before, or nothing, you still have the same amount of bills. So waiting for you to pay them. So I think it's insane that there's still nothing in place, even at
depending
a bare
on
minimum.
What state. I know there are some states that have some sort of partial pay.
Yeah,
like
sometimes
New York does.
Yeah, yes, New York does. But once again, if you have bills to pay. And if someone's taking that leave, because most likely they're not working at a big corporation, and they may be not getting paid as much because of that, so they take this, partial pay. So you're making half of barely anything to keep you afloat now. So it's great. And at least you're, recovering with something in your pocket. It's still not enough. You're causing stresses on another side. And then someone can't fully focus on their recovery, because they're worrying about the fact that they're going to have to make up those hours, or some way of subsidizing their living in some type of way to make up for that.
And even more reason that parental leave should be a year, because it takes up for, I would propose for the child bearer, because that it takes up to a year to recover.
Yeah. When I was going through my blood pressure issue, and the doctor was just like, he's like, you just might be facing this for the next year. And I said, what? And so, we came up with a plan for me to be able to manage it without medicine. But that was the reality of it, is that I was going to have to monitor and look after this for the next year because whatever, my body just hasn't quite figured itself out quite yet. And that was scary to hear. And it's insane once again that I got only 16 weeks of that 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah. 52 weeks.
Only part of that. Very, very thankful because once again, I think that is great that at least, which is it was a little shy of like the full four months in like the months that we were in.
Because you think every month has 4 weeks, but that's not quite.
Yeah. So I actually went back to work before my son was 4 months old, and I'm very thankful for it.
He was 16 weeks old.
Yeah. I'm very thankful for it. But yes, I think that at a minimum, like once again, I felt really great with the 6 months, but I would take a year. It would be very hard to go back to work, but I'll take it.
Yeah. And then I think for the non-child bearer, I don't want to use the word dad, but the partner who is going to be helping in the situation. We'll say the dad for lack of a better
there's
term.
a term that people have been using a lot, which I think is really great because it's really inclusive of, either gender roles, or whether you're in a same-sex relationship. It's like the birthing parent.
Thank you.
The birthing parent
and
versus
the non-birthing parent.
Yeah, the non-birthing
That's
parent.
what I was trying to get at. Because my last job used two very different, they called it the primary and the non-primary, or the secondary. I forget. It didn't make sense because I'm like, how come both parents are not the primary? Anyways, talk about the non-birthing parent leave, which I think is equally as important because it's bonding time. And I think I was fortunate enough at my last job to take 16 weeks, and they had just changed that policy for the non-birthing parents from 2 weeks to 16 weeks. And so I was able to take advantage of that. As a non-birthing parent, I felt a lot of, it was like a stigma.
Yeah.
Like, why are you taking 16 weeks?
And then I'm
like what? Why do you care?
Yeah. Why do you care? And it was incredibly helpful for me because I don't know how I would have done it with some of the trying to recover and having 2 kids with you working. And could you imagine that? Like me out here in the living room or whatever, or trying to recover, and you in the back room trying to work. Like, hello, like come out here and help me.
Yeah.
So it would have just kind of pulled you into 2 different directions because I very much could not have done it on my own. And obviously we leaned on other people as well to help us out. And that was great. But on the day, every day in middle of the night, who was there by my side? It was you. And it was very much needed.
Yeah.
Like, I think you were in it with me, besides the sore nipples and obvious, other recovery things that a birthing parent have to go through. You were right there, and I needed it.
And when I took that leave, my last job, it was because it was very new, and coming from a perspective as a man in the workplace, there was also that stigma as well. Like, oh, well, you're going to be away from your job for more than 2 weeks. What? But in my current company, that's the culture. And there was no, I didn't feel like there was this stigma there was like no pressure to say, oh, your company policy is 6 months, but you're only going to be gone for 2 months, right?
Right. Yeah.
No, the first question my boss asked me was, are you planning to take it all at once? Or are you planning, because we can break it up over a period of time. And he's like, just, are you planning to break it up, or are you planning to take it all together? And I'm like, I'm going to do all together because that was helpful last time. Yeah.
And at first we thought, okay, maybe do the 4, do
I
2.
went back and forth
2 or 3 months, and then,
And I'm like, let's do it.
I think it would also be just hard. Like, you got to jump back into work, and then you're like, okay, bye, peace. Yeah. You never quite get back into work because you're working towards your next 2 to 3 month leave time versus here's my full attention for the 4 months or the 6 months. And then I can go back into work and then focus on that. And this is how my new life looks versus here's a little taste of what life could be when I go back to work. Oh my God, dread it. Exactly. And then go back to leave and then like, oh, I got to do this again. It's like, okay, just rip it off like a Band-Aid and adjust accordingly.
And to clarify, it was more of the culture at my last job, not my team. My team was extremely supportive.
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
I do want to clarify that because they were very supportive of the 16 weeks. It was the old company, old corporate America culture.
Yeah, and just like filling other teams in, and you're like, oh, you're going away. Exactly. Like, what's happening? I remember you kind of telling me those stories. But then like, that's crazy.
And then I took it, came back, and I saw a lot more non-birthing parent, but men taking that leave.
Yeah, you're trying
as they should, and they would come and ask me questions about it, and I'm like, go talk to HR. They will tell you how all the paperwork you have to fill out. But after that moment, it was kind of like other people started doing it, which was great. But my current company, it's a part of the culture, and it takes that stigma out of it. And I think that is also very important for the non-birthing parents to feel like they can also take bonding time with their kids.
It's so important, bonding time. And then I say this because the kind of relationship and partnership we have where we're very much a team and we're tag teaming. So if I'm up at night, at least in the beginning, you're up at night. So you're going to have to then go into work the next day. That's a lot. During those first few weeks of newborn life. Oh my God. I love, they're so cute. And so they lay on you and the feeling of a baby laying on your chest and sleeping. It's like there's nothing that compares to it. I love it so much. That's my favorite.
Little sighs.
Oh my, yes. And them just breathing on you. It's kind of crazy. He doesn't even really, he did that. He fell asleep when I was nursing him in the morning, and he was laying on me for 10 minutes, and then he woke up, or in the middle of the night when I feed him, then I burp him and he falls asleep and he's laying there. And sometimes the time escapes me because it's such a good feeling. I love it. And then I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go sleep. Then I'm calculating, I just lost how much sleep. And you're gonna wake up in X amount of and he's gonna wake up in X amount, because I'm like, okay, I feed him, put him down, he's gonna wake up in this time, so I have this time, it's gonna fall back to, okay, I have an hour and a half of solid sleep because it's gonna take me at least 20 minutes to go to sleep. And so sometimes if I lose myself and he's laying on me for 15, 20 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, I just lost that sleep. I lost 15 to 20 minutes, but you don't quite get that back. But, the newborn time, it's although it's really adorable and that bonding of them laying on your chest is really great, it's a real rough, it's rough.
Yeah.
It's really, really rough. And so if, the non-birthing parent has to go back to work at this time, they're exhausted too. If you're truly, if you're someone who has an arrangement like we have where,
it's 50-50 and not
very, and at times
a flexible 50-50.
Exactly. And that meaning that sometimes it's 25-75 and sometimes it's, 60-40. It changes based off of what one partner needs. And so, if you don't have that where we're constantly balancing off of each other, that's rough. But if you have a partnership like ours, and you're just as tired as you're just as tired as me. So, or you're really tired, I should say. So, I will say you're just as tired as me when I stop breastfeeding, because I don't, all of my breastfeeding people who are listening to this, there's just no way to describe it. The energy is a great experience, but it literally sucks the energy, pun intended, out of you. So, it's
a Hocus Pocus meme where they're like,
because you're trying to sleep to get more energy. You're being woken up, so you're losing sleep there, but then you're breastfeeding and it's sucking some more energy out of you. It's just like, oh my God, I'm tired. So once I stop breastfeeding, I will say you're just as tired as me, but right now I'm more tired. If there was a competition, I say all that to say that it would be really rough for you to have gone back to work during that time in those first 12 weeks, I would say.
Yeah. I remember going with Liam waking up 2 weeks later and thinking, oh my God, imagine if I had to go back to work after this. And then this time when you were heading back to work, I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, imagine if I had to go back to work.
You would be fine.
So I would probably be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, one of the tips that we've constantly say is lean on your resources. So in our last episode, you were talking about breastfeeding. So leaning on your lactation consultants to get different advice for your support system. Hopefully you have one, whether that's friends, family, etc. It's work. Our bosses are supportive of our leave, and I think I have to go put a pacifier in.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break.
Yeah.
Okay. His pacifier fell out, and his arms are strapped down, so
he can't quite get
it. Anyway, support system. Hopefully you have a support system to lean on, but lean into them. And then lean into your pediatrician. Don't lean into the internet as so much. I mean, lean into the internet to find paths to questions, or
because some pediatricians could be a little shady, but we've been really lucky with ours where they're really great and not making us feel bad because we're tiny people, and so we have tiny kids.
No. You are a tiny person. I'm an average person.
You're an average person.
I'm not a tiny person.
Okay, whatever. Yes, you're an average person. I'm tiny person when it comes to weight. I'm height wise. Yes. I'm an average person as well. If we're talking about our,
I can't think of the right word because they said it so well in Grey's Anatomy. Outdated, using BMI as an outdated version.
Yeah.
Because we should not be using that. But in a BMI, you are a tiny person.
Yeah.
I am not.
And just like visually looking at me, I've always been that way. So when I have, our Liam, he was like a chunker, which I didn't really realize. Yeah. But then this, with Blair, he more mirrors, like even my mom said, like when I was a baby, how I was as well. He's an eat. Yeah. He loves eat, like his cereal. We've introduced cereal to him. He's obsessed with it. And I think he's going to be a huge eater. Yeah. He just has a fast metabolism. I think just like me, because he's smaller too, even though he came out bigger than Liam, his birth weight was bigger, but he's, as far as like on whatever curve he's much smaller than he was. And so, but the doctor looks at me and just like, asks us how many poops and whatever dirty diapers he has, and like that all lines up and everything else. And so it's just like he's developed, he's met the milestones he's supposed to meet and doing everything physically. She's like, oh, she looks at me, she's like, that makes sense. She's like, you're just like your mom.
That's why it's helpful to bring you to our pediatrician appointments, because when I would go, sometimes I would take Liam by myself and the doctor would look at me, and is when our pediatrician had left, so we were starting with a new pediatrician in that office, and he's just like, okay, like let's make sure we're I think it was something about his where he was on the curve, the lower end, and then you went in the next time, or I brought whatever the next appointment was, and he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, I see you are a very tiny person, so take after you. I'm like, I'm not a good example.
We have been like pumping, not to digress, Liam with like food lately, and he still maintains his weight. I'm like, you have a fast metabolism or something. Yeah. He's really active too. So he's like running around and stuff. But now he'll have like maybe triple amount of the food that he had before. And still, it's like, I'm going to get
He's like, I am so full, I'm going to puke.
You even see his little stomach. Yes. I'm like pumping him with food. His poor little kid is just like, my stomach. He's like, I'm full. And I'm just like, no, you have to eat more. And like good things too, like peas and like, pasta that's really vegetable pasta. Like all the things that we can, hiding different proteins in his rice or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I keep saying, I say that all to say that you got to be careful of the pediatricians that you have, but we've been fortunate to have good ones. But when you do have a good one, they're a really great resource to use, and they can put your mind at ease with with certain things. Because we didn't forget that I'm a tiny person, so we're gonna have maybe tiny kids. But sometimes that you lose perspective, especially when someone's like, your child's in the 15 or 25%, percentile, you're like, oh my God, is that too low? And you're freaking out, and they're reminding you like,
Look
girl, you in the 25 percentile too. So that makes sense. Your kids is in the 25 percentile.
Exactly. And then I want to talk about lingering anxiety, because I know, do we still have anxiety? Like, what is it? Let's dive in there. But I know right now, my anxiety is that the world right now just seems to be like a dumpster fire
Yeah.
The world at large, not our little world. Our little world is a cute little shining star. But I feel like especially the current state of affairs in America, just is not sitting well with me for everyone, and especially parents. I think there's going to be more challenges ahead. And, two of us, we're going to raise kind, resilient, empathetic kids in hopes that they grow up to change the world for the better. Because right now, the future of this country and the world at large just seems very bleak. Yeah. Especially for parents.
I know. And then I have to remember, like you said before, like, I don't even think we need to wait until like our kids are born. Like the Gen Z is like really shifting things and,
thanks to
creating
millennials to help start to break down those walls.
Creating more space. Creating more spaces for people and stuff like that. And I don't think the same things will fly. But there are still some fundamental things I need to change where it will never make sense to me why big corporations are able to donate to different political parties and stuff like that. Like, being an accountant and an auditor, there's certain independence issues that we have to face. And so how can I possibly taking large donations and swaying what politicians are going to vote for and against? I help get them in that office. So I'm pretty much buying, certain things. And so I think, not to get into like different policies and what things should change, but there are, yes, the younger generation, they're going to shift things, they're going to change things, and hopefully with that too, they change some of the fundamental issues we have around just how politics and how the whole concept is supposed to work. They're supposed to work on behalf of the people and voting things and putting policies on behalf of the people, but that's very much not happening, especially with gun control, where 90% of America believes that there should be stronger regulations, at least a universal background check for guns, and it's not happening. There, like 90% of America believes this, and yet there has not been with all of these school shootings. And as our children get older and reach those ages where they're going to be in school, it's a terrifying thought that there's still nothing in place to limit or lower the risk of this happening. And so we very much have to have conversations with our 5-year-old children, maybe younger now, what they need to do if they're in that situation. So that's like a year or so away.
Yeah.
That we have to have those conversations.
I never thought I would have to have, because I am trying to think in school, like we had, I forget what it was called, like blue, yellow, whatever alert. We would have a drill. Like I remember this in elementary school. So like if like a stranger's just walking outside, that was like the whole point. They called it blue, yellow or something. So the shades would go down and we would just be quiet. That was it. That was the extent of the drill.
Oh, that's scary.
It was only if like a stranger walked by, because we were in the middle of I say we're in the middle of the suburbs, but it was like open school, like lawn. Anyone could walk onto that playground. Like we were right by the road, whatever.
Oh, okay.
A little more relaxed boundaries, I guess.
Yeah, because like
now there's a fence.
Our school and our when we were in Brooklyn, it had a gate along any of the opened areas.
And I'm not sure what brought it on, but I felt like it wasn't 9/11 because we were in 7th grade. So something, I don't know if there, maybe I have to look back at historically, if something happened in like 2000s somewhere. Well, 9/11 was 2001. When was I in elementary school? Oh, the 90s.
Yeah, I don't know what.
I don't know if something happened, but we had a drill. Like we had those drills. Like if there was it was like stranger danger drills, and then middle school. I think we sort of still had it. And then high school, we knew about it, but we didn't like practice a lot. Anyway, those are conversations that I didn't have as a kid with anyone about what happens if a shooter is on your school. Mm-hmm. And now those are the conversations. Also, the conversation I didn't know, wouldn't have to fathom about having to talk to my kid about when they start driving, about what happens when you get pulled over. Mm-hmm. As a white man, mm-hmm. I never thought I'd have to have those conversations. Now I have kids who are black. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't even know how to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So now we have to have those conversations.
Yeah.
And then conversations about gun violence.
Yeah. And now, even before they're driving, and just being like, mm-hmm. If we're living in an area predominantly with white people, like, I'm sorry, but your white friend might be able to get away with that. Mm-hmm. You're not going to. So you're going to have, there's just certain things that, conversations that we have to have just because of the world that we live in, which is so unfortunate. So, this is, puts it, as parents in a difficult position where you're trying to, help your child keep this innocence, but mm-hmm. also keep them safe. So with that, you kind of take away their innocence a little bit and let them know, like, some people are going to want to hurt you, and guns they can hurt you. So if you see this is what you need to do, mm-hmm. or, because mommy wants you to, come back home. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, we'll have to have really tough conversations like that with them, which is really sad.
Yeah. I saw a meme the other day that said, you officially become a parent when you start worrying about your well-being. And when you you officially become a parent when you stop worrying about your well-being and all the possible ways that you could die, like a meteor falling on mm-hmm. you. Like, I don't know if you ever think, whenever I see a plane, I'm like, oh my God, what happens if I'm like sleeping and a plane hits my building?
We
like,
need to talk about that anxiety that you have.
Like, these little planes these one-person planes that like randomly land mm-hmm. on the highway. Like, I'm like, what if that hits my house and I'm in it? So you officially become a parent when you stop thinking about that for yourself and you start stressing over your kid's well-being in all of those same scenarios. Like, what happens if a meteor hits my kid? Like,
yeah.
It's not funny, but when Liam was born, I felt like I had all those stressful dreams about keeping him safe. And then they sort of were still there, but they weren't like every single night. And when Blair was born, it was like every single night, the same things, like, oh my God, like, what happens if this happens? And I'm like, God, what am I going to do with him? And I have to go get Liam. And I just am like having stressful dreams. Yeah.
I mean, you need
so I'm like, I've officially hit that meme. I'm no longer worrying about myself getting hit by a meteorite. And I think I'm using meteorite as the right term because it's a meteor in the sky, but it's a meteorite when it starts burning up.
I don't think anyone's really going to fact check you on that, but yeah, sure. We can look that up for you. But yeah, no, I mean, we'll talk about your anxiety and your dreams, but yeah, there is a level, once they actually do, I have heard people say, once they actually start sleeping through the night and you're not, they're not constantly getting you up, and then they get older, mm-hmm. you still don't sleep through the night because now you're worried about your kid and mm-hmm. them being out and about, even as they're adults, because you're worried about, what's happening with them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I think at that level, do I have crazy dreams about that? No, but it does very much stay in the back of my mind, and just everything that's been happening in the world, like anything can happen. We've seen that, in our personal lives lately, that at a blink of an eye, someone's here and then they're not. And so it's a very unnatural thing to lose a child, for your child to go before you. So that obviously, that it's a really scary thought that can possibly happen. And there's so many different ways, because of the world we're living in, that can happen, even without just the freak accidents and stuff that happens like that. There are things that we can very much prevent, and that's the concerning part. That of what's going on that we haven't quite figured out. So it's insane.
Yeah, I know. And I feel like all that just makes me sound like I'm really stressed.
No, this is parenting. Like,
but I am.
It's like, it's a very stressful, very, very stressful thing to, think about. And so, you hear all these people have all these arguments online about what we need to do, and especially with the school shootings and stuff, and everyone has their opinions on what they need to do. But then if you really go back to the source of the problem, is that we have these semi-automatic guns in the hands of civilians that are meant to kill. And they're going in and, be one thing. There's, one casualty is too many, but, if you're talking about a handgun or something, and even if teachers are going to be trained to somehow, take down someone, their chances of taking down someone with a semi-automatic gun, even if all of them barge, they all can die, right? Versus like if they had something that's a little less, automatic. If you have police officers that are afraid to go into the school to save the children because someone has this type of gun, then that's an issue. Because if the police are not willing to just barge in there and save people because they very much can die themselves, then these things should not be in the hands of people. I'm not a huge gun supporter. Like, if people want to have their handgun, that's fine. I just don't understand why people have
it's assault weapons.
Yeah, and we can get into it, but it's a very scary thought. And some people who don't need to really worry about it, or who are in support of it and don't care, then their kids are probably in this well secured school where no one can touch them or anything like that. And so those are the privileges that people need to look outside themselves and be like, okay, you have that privilege, right? Not everyone has that privilege of doing that. So,
and then all of that, all of that anxiety compounded with the pandemic we're living in and we'll be living through, because there just seems to be no end at this point. And we have to be flexible and learn to live in a pandemic. And just the other stress is constantly having to remind people that we're still in a pandemic and that we're raising kids under 5, because if you're old, actually soon we'll be able to get a vaccine for under 5-year-old. But at this current point in time, there is no vaccine yet, and having to constantly remind people why we are still being cautious in a pandemic. And it's not all about COVID. It's about keeping your newborn, your infant, healthy, period, so that they can stay out of the hospital where there's a higher chance of getting COVID. I don't want them to get COVID, no, because they're an infant. I don't want anyone to get COVID, but we're not being cautious because we're trying to avoid COVID. We're being cautious to avoid the flu, a cold, a common cold, whatever.
Yeah. My mom always puts it back. She's like, she is worried about COVID, but she's like, there's the other things too. And she's like, and with the current state of what's going on, she's like, some people are not up to date on their shots and everything else. And so what was a few years back in Brooklyn, there was like the measles outbreak where it's like, what? Yeah. I thought we
eradicated measles.
Yeah, and now it's back, and people were getting it, and so those are those things. Like, if my child gets measles, that's really dangerous for them. So yes,
and keeping them healthy so that it doesn't get to. So if they were to get sick, it doesn't get to a point where I have an infant, can't give them all the right medicines, so we have to go to the hospital where there's a higher chance of getting
exactly
sicker. So
anything that compromises their breathing, respiratory thing, is an issue.
And so that having to continually to remind people close to us that fact is just another thing. And I'm like, I don't even want to be around people because I have to explain myself all the time.
I mean, there comes a point too that we just stop explaining ourselves, and it's just kind of like, no.
Yeah. And maybe it turns into that.
It has turned into that. Because people sometimes they're not
putting their head in our situation.
And so you have to
remind them of our situation.
In whatever decision you make for your child, whether it's for health reasons of keeping them safe or for other parenting choices that you decide to make for your child, that's your choice, Yeah.
And I mean, all this pandemic stuff with the current state of the world, And then just the normal stress of having to go back to work, and juggling this life we've built. It's just,
it's all really great. These are all good things, right? That you have some of these worries. Like, it's like, okay, like then that means you have something that you're afraid to lose, and or you want to keep safe, or you're trying to just make great human beings. And so something I've realized too, because, going through so much during my recovery process and even during my pregnancy, outside of the pregnancy, just like life is just still continually happening and going through all those stresses, is that I've always known this, and I always say this even when people ask for me for advice. I'm like, two things can exist at the same time. And so, we're stressed and we're afraid and we're sleep deprived and we're what else? We're tired. That's sleep deprived. I said it twice. We're all these things, but at the same time, we're incredibly blessed and fortunate to be able to have just these incredible kids. Like they're amazing. They, I have a few gray hairs and stuff because of it, but these two things have, existed at the same time. And so I'm trying to enjoy those moments. Like, there's one thing that my mom always says, and I even say it now too. It's like, there's always something. And so I was like, that is so true. So then what is going to be, meaning like, there's something that comes up that's like, oh my goodness. And then we always say, there's always something. And so if you're waiting for nothing in order for you to be happy, so that for there to be that not always something, then you're just never going to be happy. You have to be able to somehow still enjoy life with everything that's going on and enjoy what's going on. So yeah, there's always going to be something. So I've just tried in my parenting, and in my family life to just kind of just enjoy those moments. So we've been listening to music more and just dancing, and I'm tired as hell, but taking those extra walks and stuff like that, because there's always something, but I have to enjoy these moments and take them as they come, because they're going to be gone soon.
And I think that leads right into, well, what do we love about being parents?
About being parents.
So you said newborn snuggles.
They're the greatest.
The milestones, I mean, for poor, the second kid, we're just going to miss all of them. The rollover.
It's like, does it so quickly.
And
I'm
being
like,
able to celebrate it. The laughing for the first time. Those are just all so worth it. Like, those are just those surprise and delights. And I think that's the difference between Liam and Blair. Is Liam, we were like, okay, our whatever Google internet search of, okay, what are these milestones, X, Y, and Z? And then Blair, I'm like, I'm not looking up what he needs to be doing right now. I don't know why, but maybe after a pediatrician appointment, she gives us a kind of like, okay, look out for this, and this. And so I've just been going off of that. So when he rolls over, I'm like, oh my God, what? Like, I think even like a day or two before that happened, you were like, you haven't rolled over yet. And then we're just like, we didn't really like, I was like, okay, it was like, it's going to happen. And then like literally the next day or two, he had rolled over. Yeah. And maybe that's that first kid syndrome that I'm a first. Yeah. I'm the oldest, where like your parents were like on top of you for everything. And so maybe that's poor Liam is probably going through that, because he's going to have to, everything he does is now the first for him. First one going to preschool, first one going to kindergarten, etc. And then Blair's like, oh, he'll go. But those milestones, I think, are still
we still make a big deal out of it.
We do. Even if we miss it, we celebrate the second one. The second time he rolled over. Knowing, like, Blair, I think we talked about this in the last episode, but Blair knowing his name, like, Blair, and he just turns and looks.
Blair, we say it so many times, so, and Liam now says Blairy.
Blairy.
Where's Blairy? And he thinks as he's like cracks up, starts laughing. And so I found myself starting to call him that too, or Mr. Blair.
Yeah, Mr.
Because
Blair.
it sounds like Mr. Bear.
Yeah, kind of my sister's dog, Mr. Bear.
Yes. I'm like, why do I want to say Mr. Bear?
Yeah.
And it's like Mr. Blair.
Mr. Bear.
Yeah. It's terrible.
When we say Blair. And, right before Blair was born, Pottery Barn Kids, and it was right after Christmas, and Pottery Barn Kids had an amazing sale. So I bought a stocking for Blair, not knowing. I just bought a stocking in the same style that we all have. And there were two options, and I forget what the other one was, but I did not want it. So I got it. It's a polar bear. Yeah. So we call him Blair the bear.
He's going to have this Mr.
And now he has this bear
Mr. Bear
attached
Blair.
to him. Yeah.
Bear Blair.
Bear Blair. Blair Bear.
Yeah.
Blair Bear, like a Care Bear. Blair Bear. Yeah, so another bear. Yeah. So, but like, how do you think you've changed as a parent of two?
I think that at least I feel like I have less anxiety.
Really?
I think I have less anxiety, not over like the state of the world and stuff, but just like
you don't have my problems.
No. Like I had more anxiety with just like
everything,
just
else.
Doing like like the little things of like not like I wouldn't say like crazy crippling anxiety, but like the diaper changes or being by yourself for the first time with your baby all day. Like I think when that happened, you like went to your cousin Julia's graduation, and I was home by myself the entire day with Liam, and
that
so like
was the first time. That was only like a month. By the way.
For me, like you having you around was like a sense of like I would do all the same things. So it's not like you were coaching me to do anything, but just having someone there was always like comforting for me. And so I didn't feel that way with like, with Blair when he came. So I'm like, okay, like I'm fine. I can do this. Although I haven't like drove in the car by myself with him yet. I don't know. I just, the little car devices and stuff, like just gives me anxiety. I don't know. Like the car seats and making sure, I don't know. Anyways, that still kind of gives me anxiety.
You should do that with a school drop. I do that with school drop off.
Oh, put them in there. And but Blair, I like drove in the car with him.
Bye, Blair. I'll see you later.
So
and the teacher says goodbye to Blair, and then we drive home. And that's our short little car ride.
I guess I can try that. But I feel like I'm more patient. I definitely, or at least I'm able to identify quicker that I'm not being patient and kind of understand why that's happening. And that's more because it's just more work that I've done with myself, not so much with parenting, but that's what parenting kind of does to you is, put a mirror up and be like, what is happening? And so if like Liam is, acting some type of way because he's tired or he's hungry, and I go down the list, I'm like, let's give him a little bit more grace. Like he's a little tired. He had a really long day. If I turn to him like, you know what? Like usually we would give him like, okay, no special treat tonight for dessert or something else, or, we're not going to spend the extra 10 minutes after dinner to play with your trains. We got to go straight to, take a bath or something. Instead of doing that, I'm like, let him still have it. He's just tired, or something like that. So if I'm able to look at him and identify like you're going through something because of all these other things, then I can do the same for myself, right? Like today, what I did, I'm like, I'm feeling really frustrated, hungry. I'm like hungry. I'm tired. Like so it's okay. Like take a deep breath. It's nothing he's doing, or it's nothing that's wrong with me. It's because these are the things and needs that are not fulfilled. So doing that and caring for him and understanding the impact of him feeling some type of way in his behavior, I can turn the light on myself and be like, okay, like Fatima, you're tired, so it's okay. That you didn't quite do the gentle parenting that you wanted to, because you were exhausted today. And so I think the other day we were just like, it was just so much, I think, and hopefully it didn't come across as a punishment, but I was just like, let's just go to bed. Like usually we have this whole grand thing of let's do stretches and stars and read all of the books in our library and all that stuff. And we were inching close to bedtime and we still had like 15 minutes, but we all were like so out of patience. And so we just said, let's just go to sleep. We could tell he was exhausted too. And I'm like, I know you want to do all these things that's in your usual routine, but being like, you're tired and it's okay. And as we say that more, I see him just being like, I'm tired. And like, he's like, I didn't want to, he stopped us the other day. I was like, I don't want to read another book. I want to go straight to bed or something like that. So
he did that in the bath tonight. He got out of the bath and he's like, I was like, what do we do after, after we get dressed, what do we get to do? He's going to brush our teeth, read stars, read books, but just one book because I want to go to bed. Yeah. I was like, okay. I was like, do you want to go to bed now? We can go to bed now. No, I want to read a book.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just being like, I'm like, it's okay to be tired and like you don't have to like push here we are pushing this poor little kid, like you have to do all these things, and he's like so on it. He's like, I gotta do my routine, I have to do all these things, and I'm just like, sometimes like you're just way too tired, and like let's give ourselves some more grace and like go to sleep. Our body's just telling us we need to rest, and like identifying those things. And so even when sometimes when Liam asks me, he's like, mommy, how are you? And I say, I'm good, but I'm also tired. So like let him know. And he's like, mommy's tired, so let me go back to sleep or whatever. And he's like understands that. And so, he could be mad that I'm like still sleeping in the room, or he's like, he understands mommy's tired, and for her to be able to like play with me and stuff, she needs to get some rest. Same with me. So I feel like this time around I'm giving myself more grace, learning more about what I need, and taking the same things that I would do with Liam and applying it to myself, and vice versa. And now I'll be better equipped to do that with Blair too. Once he gets to that age, like he don't understand anything. He's just like, I don't really care if you're tired, lady. I gotta eat. Yeah, stick that nipple in my mouth. Yeah. So Liam is really, I teach him so many different things, but he was like really taught so many things about that. I've learned so many things about myself because of him. And so realizing I'm not I thought I was a patient person, and I really wasn't. And so he's really made me patient, not just like on the outside with other people, but with myself. Because I definitely was not patient with myself. I was always really hard on myself and pushing myself to the limit. And now I don't do that as much. I still do it. And so there's still very much a work in progress when it comes to that. So yeah. What about you?
I don't know. I never had patience.
Yeah. You still don't. Like, so
I hold on. I was going there. And that it's a work in progress. With
I have more patience than you, though.
Splitting my patience now with 2 kids. And I have been feeling myself recognizing what's projection and not I think everything you just said about Liam he's tired because of whatever X, Y, and Z, and not something else is bothering me, and then Liam's doing something and I'm like, what are you doing, and taking it out on him. And I think I'm starting to recognize that, similar to what you were saying. But I think I'm just learning how to access a different level of energy. Like, I have no energy. I'm very tired, but I think that just that second level of energy and getting to, like, especially when I come out here with both kids in the morning, figuring out how to split my time and doing that effectively while being able to communicate to Liam what I need him to do, so that I don't need to watch him. We're in the same room, but stop making noise at 5:30 in the morning, because mommy's now going to sleep for another hour, or try to for another hour or two. But I don't want Blair to get all crazy and worked up, because he wakes up lit. So I think it's I've changed. Instead of having to talk to one kid, it's talking to 2 kids. But I think that's just something that I've had when I was a camp counselor, having to talk to, they were older kids and they understand, but now it's trying to talk to a preschooler. And I think it's just teaching him how to be calm or how to be around another, the baby.
It like helps him too, right? So he can like sense energy and stuff, because that's so important, like social cues and stuff. And so he understands like, okay, if someone's, if daddy seems a little more sluggish or the energy of the room, I'll be a little calm and stuff like that. So I'm matching that same energy. Not like you shouldn't always match the energy, but like understanding how I can shift some of my energy as well is important. So because if you're always trying to push through, he probably thinks, okay, I gotta push through too. Like, who cares if I'm tired? I gotta keep going, keep grinding, And it's like, no, like the reality of it is like people get tired.
Yeah.
Toddlers get tired. You're like, what is it? What toddlers? They'll go. And it's just like, you gotta let them know it's okay. You can slow down.
Yeah. Like, it's only 5:30 in the morning.
It's okay.
It's 5:30. We have all day to play with it. Today. Yes, today. But later today. Today. Yes. Later, though. Not right now. It's 5:30. We have a whole 12 hours to play with trains.
I think I always felt so guilty of not getting on the floor and playing with, like, my mom even said, she's like, you guys really, you get on the floor and you're playing, like you are playing with him. And so, I would feel guilty if I ever said no.
Yeah.
With 2 kids, you gotta. So I've introduced mommy, you want to play with me? I would love to play with you. But mommy right now is drinking her smoothie and she's sitting on the couch and she just wants to relax for a little bit. I was like, if you give me some time, we can do something later. It's like, and so like, he was okay with that, right? He did not have a hissy fit, and I don't feel like I'm neglecting him by saying that. I think he now understands it's okay. Like, it's okay to say no. We're introducing that to him. And I'm like, okay, like, I feel good about that. And then what else happened? Oh, and he's like, oh, you want to play with trains or something? I was like, mommy doesn't really love trains. I was like, I know you love trains and trains. Mommy buys you trains so you can have Liam time. How about we put together a puzzle together? So like, he's like, okay, yeah, I'll play a puzzle. So I'm like, this is how I better engage with you, and I'm giving you
mommy and Liam time.
Yeah, better time with you. That's more quality than me just going choo choo. Like, and I hate it. I think I even kind of used the words. I was like, I didn't say hate. I said, mommy does not like trains. It's like, you love trains. Papa loves trains. Mommy don't like trains. And so like, I want him to be able to be like, I don't like this. And so I've created a monster because now he does. I'm like, the other day I was like, where'd you get that? You don't like this. And I'm like, oh, yes. Great. And now as I'm telling you guys the story, I'm like, it's because I'm saying it now. He's like, I don't like this. And so it's like, okay, I can't really force you to do that. Or I say, if it's something he hasn't tried, I'm like, you haven't tried it yet. Right. So let's at least try it. If you don't like it, then you don't like it, and I'll listen to you. And so a few times he's done that, and now we've gotten him to eat fried fish. Like he requests fish now. Yep. He eats his peas. This is the only vegetable I've gotten this kid. Well, and if I get some more vegetables, cooked vegetables and rice, he'll eat that. But vegetable by himself on its own, peas, and he eats it up like it's the best thing in the world. Meanwhile, I hate peas. I can't stand peas.
Never liked them.
Him eating those peas, I'm like, I literally want to gag. I hate peas, and this is the only vegetable this kid will eat.
Yep.
It's so interesting, and my mother loves peas. I'm like, Ma,
no.
Like, I don't like peas. I don't get it. I'll eat it in the fried rice by itself.
Well, because it's in butter. And
yeah, and all the other stuff. He eats plain peas.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
Secrets out, Liam.
Secrets out.
Mommy and Daddy don't like peas, and they're making you eat them.
And then, we'll wrap up, but like, what tips do we have for parents?
I have none. Tips.
It doesn't have to be tips for parents of more than one. Just now that we've been parents for a solid 4 years.
Take care of yourself, because you cannot be a good parent if you don't take care of yourself. And if you're fortunate enough to have another parent with you, especially in the same house, to have as much open communication as much as possible, and find something that works for you guys. And if you're not if you don't have that and you're a single parent, then once again, leaning on your village if you can. And if you don't have a village, find one. That's going to be super important. You need, someone that you can, lean on. And if really you don't have anyone to lean on, just know that nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary, and this is a hard time, and it will pass. I think that is something I've constantly have to remind myself, is that it will pass. And do your best. We're all human, to not let those things that make life so difficult to then make your shift your parenting with your child. And that's something so hard, because I still do it. Where your bad day might spill over into your personal life and spill over into your parenting and everything else. So that's then it's like a full circle. Then take care of yourself, right? So, I said it's go time as soon as I walk into the door, and it's been working for 3 weeks, and it only have to do it 2 days. But there's gonna come a time where I'm just like, okay, maybe Fatima, you drop your bag down and you take 20 minutes or 15 minutes, and you go in the back room, you change out of your clothes, you wash your face, then you come out, and then you can be the best mom ever, right? And maybe I can do that now, but understanding that you need to shift, and that goes with parenting, is you have to be a very flexible person and understand that it worked before and it's not going to work this time. So figuring out what works for you at the time, and shifting accordingly as your life changes, because there's always something, and things will pop up, and you have to figure out what you need to do. And so communicating with whatever your support system is to kind of help you and aid in that way, will also be key. That's the only advice. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do to get your child to read sooner, or do a different milestone or whatever. For the most part, and unless you need some help from a professional, your child will get there. And Liam just happens to love reading since the day he came out of the womb, and has been reading for the last couple years, which is insane, because I don't think I was a great reader at 10.
What's the latest book you read? What's the latest book you've read?
I am reading more.
Oh, you're currently reading something?
I'm reading
the
book you got for me for Christmas, More Than Enough, by
when
Elaine.
When do you read this book? I don't see you read it.
I read it on the train.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I am more than halfway through.
I was like, what time did you find?
Yes, I'm more than halfway through. I talked about this before. I think you talked about one of the podcasts, when we did, I think while you were sleeping, and I said something with not the pandemic happening. That's the only time I read. That's the only time I can get focused and reading is when I'm on the train. It's the freakiest thing. Anyways, I've been reading More Than Enough by Elaine. I'm just gonna say Elaine W, because I don't want to mispronounce her name, but I love it's such a great book. It's a memoir about her life. She's close to the same age as we are. I think she's a couple of years older, but she's gone through, I could probably write a book, but she's gone through, she's a very interesting life. And she was one of the first Black beauty editors at, I don't even think it was just beauty editor. I'm going to butcher that, but at Teen Vogue. I gotta remember, she was the first Black something that working at, I think it was editor at Teen Vogue.
Okay. Google it. Look it up.
I should look it up. Anyways, she's accomplished many things. She's been on The Talk. She's been a host there. She's been on the red carpet. I love her style and stuff like that. She just recently had a baby herself. And so I've been reading her book. I love memoirs, like just reading about people. It helps you to understand how people moved and maneuvered their life. It puts things in perspective. Either it's like, okay, I'm doing good, and I can see some of myself in some of these books, or it's just like an inspirational story. The next one I want to read is Viola Davis. She came over and she has an audiobook and she reads it. So I'll probably still, I'll probably still get the physical copy, but I want to listen to her tell the story. And I listened to a snippet of it, and that's, and that was like, chills. I don't even know how we got there. You questioned me reading.
You said you weren't such a good reader, or you weren't this. I don't want to say.
Like I said, I was like, I probably didn't read as good as him.
Yes,
that's like I knew how to read, and that was me being sarcastic. But he probably read better than I read when I was like in kindergarten. Like, he's a strong reader.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was saying all this because I'm like, I don't want to sit here and, a lot of people give advice. It's like, tell me what I need to do to get my child to do X, Y, Z, and really like. And that, it just depends on the child and everything else. I'm going to tell you what you need to do to like try to help yourself. When you're helping yourself and you're building that support for yourself, you're going to be a much better parent.
Yes. And I think that's just the similar tip, or advice for parents. Just stop comparing your kids, and be confident in your parenting style if you are believing in yourself. If that makes, be confident. Don't let other people step in to your world, your parenting world, and tell you what they've done, 30 years ago to parent you, if it's your parents. Be confident in your parenting style, and don't be flexible. I think it's another great advice.
Because maybe something's not working. Maybe your child is like a spoiled brat. I'm just kidding.
But don't let people get in your head about parenting. And I saw this on Instagram. And it just spoke to me. The quote, "Your child's needs are more important than anyone's opinions about your parenting choices." And I thought that was just so. That's my I guess advice.
Because you're with your child,
you're with them. No one else has the context. No one's up in the middle of the night with them, and you to be the better parent, to be the best parent, take care of yourself, like Fatima was saying, to become the good parent, the best. What did you say? To become the most best parent, to become a better you. I forget. I'll have to rewind this.
To be the best parent that you can be, you have to be a better version of yourself, right? You have to be supporting yourself, and and that involves whatever the umbrella is, self-care and community and support and communication and all those things. And even when you're and that path and stuff is not linear, like to become a better self, like as I said before, although I know what I should be doing, I don't always do it. And so, but I somehow always snap back into it and say, okay, well, you just had like the not greatest day or not greatest moment just now. Let's shift back, and you're human, and you can now charge forward and get back onto that growth path that you're trying to get back on, or apologize to your toddler for coming out your face for a little bit. And it's you might be like, they're just like, you sit there and you're like pouring your heart out and apologizing, like, Mommy really lost a temper, and like, okay, do you want to play with trains? And like 2 seconds, but they're listening to you, because I don't even know how many times I've said something to Liam, and then he'll come back and I'm like, wow, you were listening to me. Like, even little things like when we're saying I love you, and he's like, I love you more or whatever. And like you say that to him so much, and like now he responds to that. It's like, so you're hearing me. You didn't say it back before, but like you're listening, and now you're regurgitating what we're said. Like all those little things are being stored into his bank. And so some things are not going to be so great that he stores in there, but if you store how you corrected that and how you were explaining something to him, then he has a full picture, and he's able to like piece it all together eventually.
Yeah, listening and watching, because how he interacts with Blair, how he talks to Blair, how he
it's us.
It's us. And that's the other best part about being a parent. Yeah. At least of more than one, because then you can see like your impact on the older one, to like taking care of the younger one. But I think if you've made it to this point in the episode, thank you. I think this point...
this is like one of our longer episodes.
Supersized.
They're going to be like, we just went on so many tangents.
This could have been a multi-part episode. But thank you for making it to this point in the episode, but also the series. Thank you for listening to this episode, the season. If you've been with us since, season 1, episode 1, the whole series, thank you. We wanted to share our real stories with others, and hopefully you found what we had to say enlightening, enjoyable, entertaining, or helpful. I don't know, whatever, insert adjective. And of course your feedback that we get from listeners is awesome, and the positive feedback that we get about how this spoke to you, or you took out some, whether it was a sentence we said, that's why we wanted to do this show, and why we wanted to make sure that we recorded another season during this last pregnancy. And this pregnancy and Fatima's postpartum journey has been a journey, we'll say.
And it's crazy because it's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. Kid number 2 is almost 5 months. But Fatima, your recovery continues. Our parenthood journey continues. And we're just going to keep moving and grooving and through life with these 2 kids that are hopefully going to be resilient and change the world someday. So I just wanted to say thank you, you listening, for making it to this point, and for the support that you've given us. And hopefully, we've touched your life in some way.
That's a wrap for this season. Thank you so much for listening and following us on this journey.
Check out our blog, liliesandloafers.com, for delicious recipes the whole family will love, DIY inspiration, and updates from our growing family.
Millennial and Pregnant is the Lilies and Loafers original podcast. It's hosted by me, Fatima.
And me, Brian. Original music by Purple Planet. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.